Phillip abandoned the shelter of the doorway, keeping his head down and trying to blend in with the quick, purposeful pace of the rest of the pedestrians. After he'd gone 3 blocks, he crossed the street and made his way to the shop the girl had last entered. As he passed, he caught sight of her through the window, paying for some ribbons or some such. He ducked into an alley she would need to pass on the way back to her transport. A bare minute later, her humming, a soft and delicate sound, reached him, and the girl soon followed. The color of her scarf seemed a beacon. He reached out, one hand grabbing her shoulder and the other quickly wrapping around her mouth, and pulled her into the alley. She struggled, but there was nothing to her, and he had no issues hauling her to the darker parts of the alley, where the shadows of the buildings on either side made it seem like night. The struggle was exciting, even though it gave him no problems. It just meant he had finally gotten one that would be satisfying. He dragged her to the ground and pinned her legs with his own, careful not to release her mouth or allow her to make a sound. There was one close moment when he had to let her shoulders go to grab the cloth he used as a gag. She was able to wrench her head enough to shake his hand loose just for a moment. Not long enough to cry out, but the defiance got Phillip's blood rushing even more. He tied the gag, catching his fingers on her scarf in the process and pulling it loose from her head, revealing more of her blonde hair. It wasn't the right shade, and he frowned. He'd hoped, but no. This one was for the crystal. It was better this way. His other hand now free, he pulled the crystal from his pocket, shaking it loose from the pouch. Its light pulsed, and eagerness infused him. It had grown harder to distinguish his and the crystal's needs, but most of the time it didn't matter. They were the same. He held the crystal before the girl's face. She gazed up at him, eyes wide and lips trembling, though she stilled now. She eyed the crystal, a frown forming, and confusion clouded her expression. She had expected him to violate her, but that was never what he was after. He wanted the power. Lowering the crystal to her cheek, he closed his eyes and savored the rush of life, of power, of vitality, flowing from the girl on the ground before him. She struggled again as the life left her, but it didn't last. It never did. Finally, it was done. The crystal had taken all that she held, all that she had to give. Phillip opened his eyes and gazed at the figure lying in the dark alley. For just a moment, another face was there, smiling softly at him. Dirty blonde hair with streaks of blue and changeable gray-blue eyes. Features he'd dreamed about for the last 2 months. Blue. The face changed back to the dead girl's, and his stomach roiled. He threw himself off the body and puked against the alley wall, heaving until there was nothing else coming up. He slumped against that same wall, heedless of the cold and partially melted ice seeping into his clothes, or the puke, or the body lying there. "I'm sorry," he thought, never noticing the tears sliding down his cheeks. Chapter 1. Blue. Mentally checking off items, Blue lingered over the task of surveying the contents of her camping backpack. Some things she was sure she could acquire once they'd made it to Karran, but she didn't know where they would end up or how long it would take to get those things. Extra underwear, enough for at least 2 weeks, socks, a few tanks, a pair of winter silks, she really hoped those weren't needed, 2 pairs of jeans and 2 sweaters, a travel-size sewing kit, toothbrush and toothpaste, a comb, a package of wipes, and a small first aid kit were tucked in next to those. And next to that a small journal, her list folded inside, and the pouch of coins Moata had given her. Most of the remaining space was allotted to nutrition bars and water. There were also a few items tucked down into the very